13th, 2025, 6 p.m. Y'all will stand with me. Commissioner Pelletier will do the invocation. Commissioner Ayers, will you lead us in the pledge?
Lord, we thank you for allowing us to gather today, and we pray that you guide us in making decisions for our city and citizens. We thank you for our first responders, and we ask you bless them and their families. Please keep them safe and let them go home at the end of their shift. We thank you for our citizens and employees who make Galloway a great place to be, and pray you bless them with peace and success. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Here.
Commissioner Ayers?
Here, ma'am.
Mayor Henderson?
Here. Okay, we have a few presentations tonight. First, we have Deputy Kit McKenzie with the April statistics.
Good evening. I don't think we got a call at your house. It's like your wife worked on you.
Which story you want me to tell?
Our April statistics, our calls for service are 1,130, miles patrolled 32,159, 52 arrests, 185 traffic stops, 97 citations, and 33 traffic accidents.
I noticed that 33 seems to be a magic number for accidents, 3 out of 4 months to 33.
I hate to say this, but I still don't have much confidence in
Yeah,
our
that's
system.
what I thought. I
They're
knew it was
still trying to,
some
they're
issues.
still doing some working and tweaking on it, but it's been not good to us.
That seems kind of coincidental that it would be.
We're still juggling programs, so. All right.
Well, everything is under last year's average, so good or bad, it's less.
Yeah, well, then maybe we won't fix it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and next we have, is Mr. Charlie Walker in the audience? Oh, okay. Mr. Walker, would y'all like to come down with you to present this to Mr. Walker? I don't see Mr. Boucher, but it's that time of year that we have started again with our yard of the month. So, Mr. Boucher, he lives at, is it on here? It's not on here, is it?
706 Michael Drive.
I'm sorry,
706 Michael Drive.
706 Michael Drive. So if you're out driving around, drive by 706 Michael Drive. But it's Mr. Albert Boucher is our winner for the month of April. So y'all start sending in, email your entries into the city clerk. You know, you can send your own. If you pass by and you see a yard that looks nice, take a picture. If you have a neighbor whose yard looks especially nice, just send your pictures in, because we pick a winner every month through the summer. So this will be taken by Mr. Boucher, will get his certificate. I think there's also a sign that goes in his yard for the month to state that he had the yard of the month. And then I have one other that's not listed on here, but our city manager was again honored with the 2025 Home Rule Hero Award. He's been winning this for how many years? How many years have you received it now? Quite a few in a row. 4 or 5. But it says, the Florida League of Cities, the united voice for Florida's municipal governments, recently recognized Callaway City Manager Ed Cook with the 2025 Home Rule Hero Award for his hard work and advocacy efforts during the 2025 legislative session. Cook worked tirelessly throughout session to promote local voices making local choices, protect the home rule powers of Florida's municipalities, and advance the League's legislative agenda. And he does serve, he's the District 1 Director representing this area. So we appreciate what you do for us, and I'm glad that they recognize you. Okay, we'll go on now to, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
No? Okay. Then we'll talk about public participation briefly. You know, I know there's some new faces in the audience, so we'll review. So when you can speak on, our first public participation is on our regular agenda items. So you can speak on each item if you so choose. When I call for public, input, just raise your hand when you're recognized, come to the podium, state your name and address if you choose for the record, and then your 3 minutes will start, but you can talk for 3 minutes on that particular item. Like I said, you can speak on each one, same process each time. At the end of the meeting, we have just public participation for non-agenda items that you can come up, you do the same thing, you come up to the podium, state your name and address if you would want to, and then you have 3 minutes to speak on your non-agenda item. I am gonna ask, and I'm gonna ask up to here as well, when we do our comments, let's all please try to be civil and, as polite as we can be. You can say what you need to say, but you can do it in a respectful way, is all that I ask. So that covers public participation, and we will go on to approval of the minutes. We've got the minutes of the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting. Did anybody have any changes or comments on those minutes? They look fine to me.
Mayor, motion to approve the April 22, 2025 minutes.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. If there is no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Then we will go on to the regular agenda. Item number 1, resolution 25-06, 2025 Bay County LNS plan update. City manager.
Okay, the city needs to adopt the 2025 Bay County LMS plan. Every city and the county needs to adopt the FDEM approved plan that will be submitted to FEMA. This plan ensures that everyone will be eligible for federal funding for the next 5 years once FEMA approves our LMS plan. So this is a very generic plan. It just basically talks about how we handle money, federal money that comes in and becomes available for grants that we can apply for. We all have to agree that the plan is right. It was reviewed by FDEM. They approved it. They came back. We adopted it. It goes back to FDEM, and then they will submit it to FEMA. And this just opens us up to be able to apply for grants. There's not specific amounts of money. It has nothing to do with projects. It's just, this is the plan that we follow to make sure that we're following the guidelines that FEMA puts out so that we'll be eligible for future money. Every city's gonna do it, and the county's already got theirs. So they're just gonna make the sign, it's expected in.
Anybody have any comment or question for city manager? No one? You look like you had something, Commissioner.
Well, I did because, one of the items in here covers our transportation system.
And it says
Yeah,
Bay
Bay.
Town Trolley.
Right,
And
and
it
it's
needs to be
Bayway now. But I only found that in one location in there, so I wasn't really gonna say anything about it.
Yeah, well, that's why I didn't say anything, but when you, because I looked at other cities to see, I think our city's the only one that mentions public transportation,
Right.
so,
So you're just proving you read the document,
that's right.
because it's a big document.
Well, we're supposed to, aren't we?
Yes, you are. I'm very proud of you for that. I wanted to recognize. That's a
Everybody
big
else did.
document.
I read it too,
Oh, and Mayor, yeah.
I read it too.
About 3/4 of it instead.
Maybe make a note that when we update this, that we just update that one day, the same Bayway instead of Bay.
Tell me what page it's on.
It's on the Callaway
Yeah,
page.
on the Callaway page.
All right, I'll look it up. I'll get back to her. I wanna make sure.
Down toward the bottom on the Callaway page.
Not a problem. I got it.
Anything else, anybody? Well, let's see, you and I would be the ones that would be on that anyway, because we're the ones on the TPO.
Well, Eddie probably so, he's chairman of the technical side.
I've already turned.
And I'm sure Paul
Or y'all know.
Bodak found it.
Did anybody in the audience want to comment on the local mitigation strategy plan being adopted? Not seeing anybody. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Motion to accept resolution 25-06-2025 Bay County LMS plan update.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, no, this is a resolution, so we can go ahead and, I'm
You ready for me
sorry,
to read the title?
go ahead and read it.
A resolution of the City of Callaway, Bay County, Florida, adopting the 2025 Bay County Local Mitigation Strategy Plan and providing an effective date.
Okay, so now that that's been done, we've got a motion, please do a roll call.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Yes.
Commissioner Ayers?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mayor Henderson.
Yes. Okay, we're on to number 2. Extension for development order, Callaway Cove Apartments, Highway 22. City manager,
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Scott Harbaugh, who is in our presence tonight, has the development right down the road here, apartments that have yet to really start. I'll let him give the excuses as to why they haven't quite started yet, but I believe it revolves around finances, interest rates, et cetera. But, it's a simple extension, this will be the second one.
so, did Mr. Hall want to?
Scott, say a few words?
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everyone. Questions at all? And yes, he's right about interest rates, COVID, supply chain. Now it's the Trump tariffs that we hope go away. So if these things can all align, I'm ready to go. So that's the deal.
I'm sorry, could I just get your name for the record?
Scott Harbaugh.
This is the second extension on that. What's your best guess now? I'm not sure about it.
We're in due diligence now for a loan, so we've already got our debt, so now we have just one more thing to wrap up. I also changed the building method a little bit, and then got some additional density through, better design. So that's all being played out as well, so.
Will those redesigns be coming back to us? or what?
They're the vertical redesigns, really, they're just, units that have shrunk in size because they're not, the 3-2s aren't really rented in this area. I got a buddy that did, East Bay Flats, and they had a real hard time renting the 3-2, so we swapped those. You'll get all that when it comes, but it's not quite there yet, so.
Okay, sometimes if we run into parking, and you actually increase your density,
We're
what
decreasing
about the
it.
park, or
We're decreasing it.
decreasing it?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're taking the 3-2s and making them 1-1s, so, cause they rent, the 3-2s aren't renting very well. So it's gonna get better, I guess, from y'all's perspective. Less parking.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have
I can't remember how many units was that involved.
It's 96.
It's right down the road, right?
Yes, sir.
Gonna be right in front of the big project going on.
Yeah, the townhome
You know,
to the side a little bit,
No,
maybe.
they're already there. It's not gonna be part of the project.
I know,
Okay.
it's gonna be in front of.
Yeah, those projects are already there. When he's talking about the north side backs up to the homes that are already there,
Gotcha.
Okay.
not the
I was
new.
looking at the map, sorry.
Yeah, no, this is, surrounded by residential, and then the city has an easement for drainage on the east side. And so, all the neighbors have been great. Pretty short.
Anybody have any other questions? Okay.
Absolutely.
Did anybody in the audience want to comment on this item? Didn't see anybody. So it's back to this one, and somebody would like to make a motion.
Motion for the extension of the development order of Callaway Cove Apartments, 8307 Highway 22.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
They-
Okay, so
owners of the Kenwood Suites Motel or Hotel, which is right there at Bobby McDonald's, they're asking to pay their impact fees in installments. Normally, they would be required to have them 100% paid before they get a CO, certificate of occupancy. Point out that we will receive 100% of the money we are owed. It's just gonna be in 3 installments, now, 3 months, and then in 6 months. That is the request. There are a couple of gentlemen here tonight. Do you have any questions for them?
Cole, will you
Myself.
verify that this is legal?
Yes, sir.
I was gonna ask that question.
The statute just requires that you can't charge them before, until you get a building permit, but this arrangement would be within the statute.
So they would do this in installments and they will not get a CO until the last installment, is that what?
How will that work, Glenn?
We simply will not issue a certificate of acceptance from the city of Callaway. Therefore, EPCI, our building department, will not issue a CO, certificate of occupancy, until they get that CA. So that's the leverage.
And they do understand that?
Yes, I mean, that means they can't have permanent power, permanent water. We could, deny them water if they don't have the correct CO at the time.
Okay, okay.
They're not gonna let it get to that. They're ready to go. I did forget to put on here that any fees that our attorney charges to draft the agreement should be paid by the hotel.
Okay, okay. Anybody got a question, comment?
I don't really have any problems with it other than we've never done this before. What happens next time when a contractor comes up and he's got 100 homes and, I wanna waive my impact, or pay my impact fee on a monthly basis.
We don't have to do it.
Yeah, no, we don't, but what I'm saying is that we don't have to do this either. I'm just curious as to why all of this has come up for us. And
I'll talk to you about just the financial situation.
Have them come up next.
Yes, if they'd like to come up.
Sure. Joe?
Yeah, my name is Divya Patel, I'm partner to Church Shop. Yeah, thanks for discussing about this. But yeah, that was a financial, we weren't expecting this big of a impact transportation fee, so it's out of our budget. So that's why we're requesting installments. And I mean, I'm surprised that 100% payment will be made for just installments.
To say the information we have in the letter that you've given, you do understand no certificate of occupancy until all this is taken care of.
So like, when we had built out Comfort Suites, on the same area back in 2018, we look at those numbers, with the cities and everything, and like, it was not available, we didn't pay that much impact fee when we built that Comfort Suites. So then, this time, we didn't realize the impact fee will be that much higher and everything. So we are just, we will, we want some kind of like, we want to be, hotel needs to be started running, the hotels needs to be, so we can get the generator monies and then, all the people's, we pay the taxes and everything like that. It's the same thing, it's just the impact fee, what we have, we just want a little bit extension, so that way, because of all the, loss of, working and everything like that, we have a lot of, extra fees came up into the project. So we're trying to be finishing up the project as soon as possible. Hopefully we'll be finishing it up by, end of May or middle of June.
But see, until these are paid, you won't be able to have people in there. You won't be able to is that correct? You won't be generating
Mr. Fry.
revenue. My understanding is they would have a CEO.
So,
Okay,
let me
okay.
clear that up. We would issue a temporary CO,
Okay.
TCO.
Okay. So they
But we would still have leverage on that.
Okay, okay.
It's kind of, they're just gonna end up cash flow.
Yep, I got you.
We just wanted some, cash flow comes in, and if our business goes June and July, if we went good and everything, we don't have a problem, we don't want to make, city wait until 6 months to be paid, we are not wanting to do that, we want to get that
CO in our hands, so we can have another, stuff to be tied in with the CO that can be released and everything like that.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Mhm.
City manager, don't we cover impact fees, with contractors on? Is this a surprise? It seems like it's a surprise to them. Isn't that covered?
Yeah, it is.
It is covered? Who is it covered with?
Mr. Pratt.
The developers have been aware of this high dollar figure
Right.
for a very long time.
Right.
And they've been receiving a hard no from me
Right.
for this.
Right.
They kept asking, I said, well, it's just gonna have to go to the commission.
Right.
So that's why we're here, but they've known about it. And a hotel developer, they know their impact fees.
Well,
No matter where
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're saying they didn't know. Well, in my mind, somewhere along the way, that was discussed between the city and the developer.
It's still always a shock when you hear it's well over $250,000.
Right. I don't wanna discourage businesses. I think I'm always one that want businesses in town. I'm always concerned too, we had this issue with Aldi, and we made a temporary CO and on, and in reality, they end up, after I don't know how many months, fixing the issue. If the payment is not made, we can close the motel down, correct?
Yes.
Are y'all also involved in the Hampton Inn?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm just thinking ahead.
That's a different people.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we collect that money, does it go into an interest-bearing account? Does not.
Impact fees.
What do we do with the money?
It's restricted funds.
Restricted.
Yeah.
It's
We
restricted.
can use it for like new, like if you rehab a lift station.
The three impact fees.
It is interest bearing.
Oh, it is interest bearing?
I thought it was.
But they're restricted to what we can do.
Right, that word.
Oh, it's the deposits that are not interest bearing.
Yes.
Yeah, deposits are not. My bad, I misspoke. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
So we're supposed to
We're
draw.
only getting about 5% on those funds as well.
Right, so we're losing 5% on this money.
So do we have a plan to collect 5% on this while it's being held back?
6, 7 months, 6 months.
Well, 3 months for part of it.
Total is 6 months.
To give you a little bit of history, let's go back about 8 years, and we weren't even earning interest on those money.
No, I understand
I
that,
know
but
that.
we are now.
Yeah.
So if we didn't approve it, they paid it up front, it's gonna draw interest while it's in our account. And that's quite a large sum. 5%. 390,000 almost.
City attorney, is there any laws on doing payment? There's no law that prohibits you from taking these payments in installments, and that doesn't mean it's a good or a bad idea, that just means, I can't tell you you can't do it.
And we need to be business friendly in this community. We don't wanna do things that businesses say, oh, and you're with Callaway, they're difficult. So,
I do understand that, I was just concerned that they made a statement they wanted to vary the impact fees, and I was trying to figure out where the ball.
well,
was
I
the
mean,
ball
they
going.
said they were aware, they just
No,
didn't realize they were
aware
gonna
of
be
it,
in
sir.
time.
We're aware of it, the impact fee, but when we built the comfort suites, right, the impact fee was not that much higher than, when we already budgeted, when we are building the hotels and everything, we already budgeted, okay, we're gonna have an impact fee, but we didn't realize it is gonna be like almost $400,000. Because when we looked at our 2018, when we built the comfort suites, at that time, we didn't pay that much, impact fee. So then, by the time 2018 to now, it went up so much higher, so that's why we are just asking the committee to be, have some, and it's the same thing, if you open the business, you're gonna have we're gonna have 15 to 20 employees be working into the hotels. That's gonna be, help the cities and, cities people, they're looking for the job and everything.
Right.
And it's the same thing, we're gonna be collecting the taxes, so that way, we're gonna pay the, taxes and everything to the cities side and everything. So it's good, like I know you said, saying it's at 5%, but, as far as like between the 5% and what the people is getting into it, new hotels, like what you guys are saying, we built these hotels in 18 months, so it's a quite a good, improvement that we move it fast enough to help the cities lift up the areas and everything like that too.
We're only talking about 3 months, and we also,
No. 6 months.
6 months.
3 months on part of it.
For half of each
and the other
We're talking half a year.
6 months later.
Yeah.
During that period of time, we also, in our enterprise funds will be, when they're opening and operating, we'll be deriving funds off the enterprise funds. So,
We can collect water and sewer. And it'll be good if the hotel is open, the sooner they can get open with that temporary CO. That'll bring people that stay there, they're gonna eat in the restaurants here in town, it's gonna bring business to our other businesses.
And then this hotel is like an extended stay hotel, so the people is gonna be coming in, like military people and everything, they're gonna be spending the time. Of course, we have a kitchen, but sometimes, like, if I'm a single person, I don't want to cook myself, I'm gonna cook it, but just the coffee and that kind of thing, but the rest of them, I'm gonna be going outside and eat food and everything like that.
Yeah, customers are probably gonna spend weeks at a time.
It's gonna be the same as the one right down the street from Starbucks. That's extended stay.
Yeah.
But, like, we are talking two different,
Concepts.
concepts. Like, this is like, you're looking at the Lexus, and the one nearby the Starbucks, it's kind of like,
I've never been in there.
You're most welcome, you guys are most welcome to come and, when we have a grand opening, we like you guys to come and, check it out.
Anybody else have a comment?
Can you guys, make the interest payments on it for that time?
How much for
Whatever we would normally draw.
Well, we will talk to, on the rest of the,
we can talk to the rest of the owners and see what,
If you could just make it right, we'd be good. I think normally you'd have to get a bank loan to pay this, and it'd be a lot more than just an interest payment, it'd be probably double, but, I don't want to push business at all. And we're very glad you're here. In the meantime, this is out of the ordinary for us, and I'm thinking if we would normally draw 5% interest, maybe you guys could chip that in.
we'll discuss with the other owners.
we will try to discuss with our partner, but it's just, we want to be like, the reason we came up over here is just like, we don't want to delay the project, and that kind of stuff, so, we want to start moving forward, so the city's gonna have more funds coming in,
How long will it take you to go to your, investors, find out if
We could talk to them like tonight if you wanted, tonight, yeah, so.
Because we can table this for 2 weeks, and if we do that, then we can wait for your response, and you can have more time.
Yeah.
sure, that's fine.
In tabling, it wouldn't hurt you.
No, we're talking about what, 2 more weeks,
2 weeks, yes, sir.
27?
That's our next meeting.
What was your plan opening date?
Well, no, it's tabled now,
Yeah.
so we can't discuss it. Sorry, gentlemen, we'll talk about it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They can make those calculations and let me know. legislative paving, Boat Race Road, change order number 4. City manager.
All right, this was grant funds from state appropriations. The total grant amount was $1,300,000. $1 million came from the state, $300,000 came from the city. The city's money gets paid first. The bids came in low, so there was approximately $295,000 in surplus from the state side. The city's portion has already, well, I already said it's been expended. So what we did was, is we talked to the state, we don't like to leave money on the table. We went down as long as the state was in the project right away and the scope does cover drainage, so we went through and this $150,000 additional change order covers redoing head walls on the drainage system. So that we're just basically using the state money. If we don't use it, we lose it, so we're going through every little thing. I will tell you that even after this, we still have about $90,000 worth of surplus. And staff has went back down and they have identified more issues. We'll send that to the state.
Wouldn't it be 145,000? Because this is surplus of 295.
Oh,
We're gonna use 150.
150.
That's
95,000.
150
150 from,
from 295 to 145.
140. There's more to it than just that. I'm throwing numbers at you. Disregard my numbers.
Okay.
Either way, we're staying within the project budget for that from the state. We're just trying to get little things done. All the little things we can do with drainage that do not cost additional engineering and stuff like that we can do on the fly. I will tell you, we've identified about 8 or 9 more different things we're going to get costs on it. We're going to be submitting those at the next meeting. So we're just expending state money.
And the state's good with it. For those.
Yeah. As long as we stay within scope and we're.
Is there a time frame on how soon we have to use that money? Is there a deadline?
State appropriations, we're fine. As long as we ain't close the project out, and we haven't closed it yet.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody have any questions, comments for city manager? No, it's a good use of the funds.
I ain't even know why on that.
No.
I ain't even know
Don't
what
take
that.
it back and give the money or something. Anybody down here have any question or comment? Anybody in the audience want to comment on the use of the state appropriation excess? Yes, sir.
Although Act 7010 Mike Lane, at the risk of asking a really silly question, since you're working on Boat Race Road, what is the possibility you could use some of this money to address the roundabout at the intersection of Boat Race and First Avenue?
Doesn't fall within the project scope. State appropriations is for resurfacing, it's not adding roundabout.
Well, there's a lot of
No. Keep
resurfacing
in that
that
gray
needs to
area.
be done down at that end of Boat Race.
Anyway, it's only for resurfacing, not losing the road or.
Yeah, but my point is, there's a lot of resurfacing that needs to be done down at that end of Boat Race.
That end is gonna be completely ripped out, so we're not resurfacing, it's new structure.
Okay,
Okay.
that'll take care of it then. Thank
Anybody
you.
else want to talk about the legislative paving?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, and if I can clarify one thing, I know I did not ask for public input on that last item, but once it's tabled, we stop discussion, so that's the reason I didn't call for public input. Okay, so we need a motion on agenda item number 4. We want to approve this change order.
Motion approved change order legislative paving, Boat Race Road, and change order number 4.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to public safety building painting, change order number 1. City manager.
All right, we're requesting, There was a damaged corner on the building, that needed to be repaired, and also upon completion of the second required coat, it was determined that a third coat of paint was going to be needed. This was verified by multiple people. So what we looked at overall was if they were there, we had to go ahead and make an executive decision, so we went ahead and opted to go ahead and put the clear coat on while they were there, as opposed to having to bring them back out and reset everything back up. While it's over the project amount, it's under the budgeted amount we had for this project. So, this price was actually significantly under what we had put in the budget for it. And so we're requesting an increase of $8,110.
So with that increase, we'll still be under what we.
We're still under, there will not be a budget amendment. We're significantly under budget on this project.
Anybody have any questions with her?
There was a corner on the building, Chief, you may have to say, I
know you
saw
said
the pictures.
what was that building?
Did somebody hit that corner or something?
Yes, it was hit by a mower.
Hit by more?
Yeah.
So we did.
At least we're not,
I guess so.
at least it was somebody else and we failed to
Yeah.
hold them
I was
accountable.
gonna say, can't we go after the person that hit it, but we did.
Yeah, we can go after them.
Tim,
We're gonna make them,
Tim did it.
who cuts grass up there?
Tim. Tim's department. An accident. They really did catch the edge of that building,
I'm
and it
just
took two for a minute.
wanna know,
Yeah.
you know, what they, and then,
Yeah,
when he did this, did he not understand, you know, what, I don't understand the third code.
So,
That's a lot-
and I don't
that's
know,
a-
Chief, you may have to help me out with
That's
this.
a lot of paint.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of paint. We spec'd a specific type and brand of paint for this project, and we required 2 coats.
I'm sorry?
We actually had in the bid, we required 2 coats. After the second coat, Chief, you wanna explain?
Yeah, it was still, where the sun really faded the building, you could still see what I would call a holiday. So on the, the stuff that still looked decent, it definitely showed a contrast. So we opted to do that third coat.
What kind of paint we used?
It was,
It wasn't last American.
no,
The paint really wasn't an issue.
I know a lot about paint, guys.
Especially the labor to do it. That's a big building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's hard.
Shows the labor.
now he got it from Sherwin-Williams, and on the bid, we were talking to some folks about the painters, professional painters, and they recommended Lexon XP, but with that red pigment, you couldn't get it as deep, and with the UV protection, so they had to go to a different paint base, and it was just a little bit more cost than that also.
Is it already completed?
Yeah.
Any other comments? No, did anybody in the audience want to comment on change order for the public safety building? Not seeing anybody, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve public safety building painting, change order number 1.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We go on to item number 6. Or the bridge change order number 3, Gorman, city manager.
One arm doesn't work very well, I'm sorry. Okay. So we knew about this change change order sometime in November that there would be additional cost requested, that has to do with materials that was used in the project. And now that everything's done, they're trying to solidify and finalize all the numbers. At this point, the change order is an increase to the contract by $86,314, but the city has a liquidated damage credit of $36,800, and we also have a tax savings credit of $32,126.55. So the total amount requested for this change order is $17,388.27. And Justin Gorman is here.
Want to come up?
Yes, please, sir.
Anybody have any questions? Or do you have questions?
I have a question to city
Okay.
manager, that's okay.
Good evening, Justin Gorman. Scott Randall wasn't able to make it tonight, so I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability.
City manager, I don't remember discussing, I know in October, I went back and looked at the minutes. In October, we had a discussion on Bertha Bridge, and you assured us that everybody had looked at all the figures, and in fact, Mary even asked the question that there wasn't gonna be any more. And I just find it kind of interesting that we had liquidated damages and taxes, and all of a sudden now we have a change order. And obviously, city manager's has already explained to me that CEI has verified the material. But, I did meet the city manager today at the bridge, and, there's some stuff that the city's working on. So, but, I was just kind of stunned to see another change order in Bertha Bridge, especially more so since we had liquidated damages. It just doesn't feel right to me, it just really doesn't. And I don't know what happened from the October meeting, if you go back and look at the minutes, where we were told that all the figures and all the quantities were verified, and it should be more, and I understand just because you say should doesn't mean it can't happen, I understand that. Things do happen, but I just feel that when we look at, we have liquidated damages and tax savings, I guess we pay taxes that we shouldn't be paying, is that correct?
Correct.
So,
We didn't pay anything, it's just, it was in it was calculated in with their sheets.
right,
And so.
we didn't pay it, they just.
No, yeah, it's just sitting there.
I just find it,
And as for your statement, of course, you're exactly right, I can only give you the information that I'm given.
right,
And at the time, we thought that change order was gonna cover everything. And then, of course, there was lots of quantities at the end, and that was where everything was, I'm assuming that's where it all came from.
I'm looking at where it's at, but it's just that,
I was, I think we were all kind of hoping maybe it would wash out, but.
I was
obviously
trying
it
to
did
look
not.
at this, but that print's so tiny. It's
I
really
know.
hard to
well,
read.
I think that the big issue here is that when I read the contract, and I've talked about this many times, and we don't do it, and we should do it, is that when we go out with a contract, I don't see why we can't put in that contract that change orders must be approved before the work is done. So here we are 2 years later, and we're still talking about Bertha Bridge, and we're still talking about paying on Bertha Bridge. When this probably was done months and months ago, and we're just now, as a commission, finding out. And I really think that when we do our contracts in the future, we should put an excerpt in there that change orders must be approved prior to work being done. Not saying that work doesn't have to be done, it's just that as a commission, here we are sitting talking about Bertha Bridge again, and the citizens out there are saying, no, wait a minute, where is this all coming from? And, I look at it, I understand that CEI has provided a list, and they verified that the materials were provided. But I just hate that this is coming up this way versus come up prior to the work being done, so we know, and we're not surprised 2 years later that we've got a change order.
I think I can answer some of that. So I believe this was FDOT spec. And so the way the FDOT works is it's in-place quantities. So like when we're pouring bridge decks or truck slabs, it's in-place quantities. Sometimes you order 6 truckloads and you might use half that truckload, you don't know your in-place quantities till they're in place. And so that's part of, I believe that's part of what it'd be impossible to give you an upfront change order on in-place quantities.
Well, it's kind of like, I'm not gonna talk about concrete again, but we went, it was just an estimate, but we estimated by 6 truckloads. And that was the meeting I talked about concrete. It just seems that whoever's doing the estimating, whoever's putting all this together, obviously didn't do good in estimating. But neither here or there, that's a different story. I'm just saying that we, as a commission, should demand that in the future. And, I just don't like sitting up here being surprised with another change order of Bertha Bridge, which ran it took months and months and months for them to complete it. So obviously they weren't really interested in getting the job done. And,
I would disagree with that. I mean,
well, you
there
would
were
disagree with it.
there were some issues that were probably not understood. We had issues at the beginning of the project. We're getting answers from the engineer. And I believe the engineer even stopped responding to questions that we had. So that obviously creates delays. Now, I'm not saying that there were not delays related to us, but it was definitely in our best interest to get it done. Every day we're there, it's more equipment costs, more rental costs. Everything adds up for us, the more days we're there. So it's in everybody's best interest for us to get out of there.
Didn't that engineer work for you?
No, sir. It was an engineer hired by the city. We don't provide engineering. The city hired an engineer, I believe he's out of the Midwest, and then you guys put out the plans that the engineer develops. We bid off those plans with planned quantities, and then that's our involvement.
I kind of find your comments quite interesting that 2 years later, we're talking about engineers.
I believe this was brought up before tonight at a previous commission meeting.
That's all I gotta say.
Well, we're also getting ready you're gonna see, 2 more change orders from Gorman. One of them's gonna be the final change order, which accepts all the numbers. It's no money, it's just the change order to accept. But you're also gonna receive a change order from the drainage project that came in under budget. Because it was discussion of could we take the savings from here and move it over here? Which the answer is no, because they're both funded by grants. And so you can't intermingle that money. And so, this is one of those where
In October, we did a change order for that approach, which is line item 2 on the
So where's the 17,000 coming from? Will it come from grant, or does it come out of our budget?
we're done with the grant money.
We're done with the grant.
This will come out of infrastructure. It'll come out of HACCP.
Okay. And all these, this change order has to do with materials, no labor?
All material related, yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Did anybody in the audience want to comment on the bridge change order? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Teresa Langston, 6031 Land Street. I come to these meetings twice a month, and it seems like that all these bids come in low, and we're just constantly doing change orders, paying out money, paying out money, paying out money. And the same thing with this bridge. The estimator, or who it was, the estimator said, oh, well, we can't estimate everything. Well, that's part of an estimator's job when they're doing bidding, is to come in as accurately as they can. I don't understand why we, as Commissioner Pelletier said, why they're coming in later and not as they're occurring. Because now, what do we have to do? We have to pay it. So, there's really not a lot of discussion with the money. And then while we're talking about being over budget on things, the city manager talks about, oh, we're under budget on this, this, and this. If you go back and look, I don't know how many things we actually come in under budget, because it may be under budget at the moment, but something's gonna happen, and there's gonna be a change order to where we're just paying out more and more money. That's coming from taxpayer money, it's coming from our city. And I just don't even understand why we keep entertaining this.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Jeff Carnahan, 7752 Shadow Drive. What happens if we don't approve the change order, or you guys don't approve the change order? What happens then? Does it go to court, or, I mean, you know,
Yep. I would expect they would sue us for the money.
I don't know, I just think the whole thing with these change orders, I agree with Bob Pelletier, is gotten out of hand. Every job that we've done has a change order on it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I will make one comment on this.
Sure.
Everything that's in here, like Bob was saying, it'd been nice to know about it as they were developing, but there's nothing in here that was not necessary to be done. So if we had, we talked about the engineering and all that, if we had the engineering absolutely perfect to begin with, all these dollars would be in the original bid, et cetera. Gorman would have had, bid accounting for everything that is in here, in their bid, as would everybody else. So the problem that, I agree with Bob, the problem is more internal than external, involving, some drastic thing with the bridge or with Gorman. The problem is with us. So, I agree with that.
And Commissioner, I just think that, we had it ahead of time, it came in, well, we need a change order for 200,000, maybe we can get a second opinion on that. We can't get a second opinion here because the work's already been done. See what I'm saying? Engineers are gonna make mistakes, I don't blame anybody for it, other than the fact that I don't like our system, internal system that we have, that we're allowing this to happen time after time after time. And it has, these big contracts hasn't happened all that often. But, we got a big one coming up here on Cherry Street when we started. And I was safe to see that, okay, we got this change order and this change order and all, and this $17,000 is coming out of, the absent sales tax. But it's still money that we could be using somewhere else,
And I agree, we do need to know about these change orders ahead of time as much as possible. If it's something that is critical, that they have to have this approved, right, we call it special meeting.
Thank you, yeah.
So we can,
And then if we don't agree.
it's done, that we don't want to impede the process.
Right.
So we'll have a special meeting so we can talk about the change order and approve it. That's what it is.
Just like the concrete, you brought up the situation with concrete. Now, they underestimated the concrete. Gorman dealing with X amount on the concrete. But when we had to use more, it wasn't the new cost or anything else. It was still the contracted cost for the yardage, for the concrete. Same thing with the aggregate and other things that are in these here. We didn't pay a different cost. If we had the right amount in the original contract, it'd be the same value as what all this is. So, repeat, the problem is here, not with Gorman.
I understand that. I think the problem too is that, our engineer obviously, let the city down. 6 loads, I keep on talking about that, 6 truckloads, that is a heck of a lot of concrete. I can understand missing it by 1 or 2, but 6? Somebody didn't do their job. And we paid the engineer to do that, to look out for our interests. And of course, he says, well, we only estimate, but anyways, we can discuss this all day. My point is, I think internally, we need to change our procedures to where this is not a surprise to us. And then if we see it, maybe we can hire a second engineer to go out. Is that right?
Well, the good news about this project, where the pilings went to China, which the engineers didn't figure that out to begin with, but at least we know that, because we got the spillway coming up, and we know those pilings are gonna go to China, so at least we can get all that figured in to begin with.
What's your pleasure, if I'm going to make a motion?
Well, went through this change, I'm still asking that question, because we did a change order for that, approach, base and concrete, in October. $90,000.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. This change order is completely separate from the other ones.
Same wording.
I said same word.
What was that? Aggregate, please.
These are based on actuals. The numbers that you're saying now are based on actuals.
If it's the same wording, what we paying it?
I have to go and ask the CEI. But they're gonna, maybe for a different area or something.
I'm just saying, so that one line item is a mistake, and
Can't see
there's
that.
a bill, let's check $15,000.
I think I could probably answer that. I'm looking at change order 2, and it's for the concrete class, approach slabs. This is for the aggregate. This is separate, that was for the actual concrete that came out of the truck. This is the aggregate.
Well, you couldn't, I mean, how would you know how much concrete you need if you hadn't based it?
Well, again, I'm gonna answer this to the best of my ability. Scott will know this better. But I believe this is the actual approach to get to the approach, like the road base for the asphalt to go onto. So this would've came after that.
It's the approach to the approach. How about that? The approach, the roadway that goes up to what you would call the approach, which is the concrete.
Yeah, so you see above that is the approach stabilized subgrade type B. So you've got 2 different types of subgrade that go down before the asphalt goes down. So it's 2 different items. You have the approach slab, which is the concrete, which is the one that was back in October, I believe. This is associated with the asphalt portion.
This is on the north side of the bridge, if I recall. Is that correct? Where this aggregate came from?
I don't wanna guess. I can just tell you that, you know, these are the,
Was that what we
these
had?
are based on quantities, yeah.
You recall, is this on the north side of the bridge?
I don't, no, sir. I'm not aware of that.
Mayor, I'd like to table this item, please.
Discuss this further.
Commissioner, would you email me your questions? Yeah. So I can get those to them. If anyone has any questions, please email me so I can send them to the CEI.
And have the CEI come in and let's talk about it.
You know, the CEI in here?
With you, to talk about these changes, to make sure everything is accurate.
Now, I guess you can have it from her.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You meet with the CEI.
That's fine.
Whatever. Okay? Okay.
Thank you for the work.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about this in 2 weeks.
Okay, I'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll go on
This is
to,
the next thing.
okay, we'll go on to item number 7, agreement, assignment of Callaway City.
Did y'all hear that?
I heard that.
I'm sorry. They were all laughing. Commissioner Hayes said this is gonna extend the delay. And I
No,
said,
no,
"What
no.
delay?"
Talking about, if this would have been final tonight on that, then all the, $200 a day is already computed in here.
Everything, yeah, the project is closed out.
Yeah. So
Project
The
is
project
closed.
is closed and accepted, so now we're just doing that. Mr. Schultz?
we're not going to go to the day down just because we tabled.
That's what I was
just want the commission to be aware that this is a federal grant. There is a drop dead date on this grant. I notified the city manager and the CBI, that we have to close this grant out. The drop dead date started 90 days from 4/30, so we do have to get this grant. That means all final payments, all paperwork, everything related to this grant has to be submitted by FEMA before that 90-day time is up. That means the check has to be cut and clear the bank before I can get that. We still have FEMA funds on the table, folks.
So 90 days from today?
90 days from 4/30. The clock is ticking. Half gone already.
So we need to,
We got the next meeting.
We may have to have a special meeting.
Our closeout date is 4:30, and so.
we're gonna have to
5:30,
we have to deal
6:30,
with it,
7:30.
we have to deal with it in 2 weeks, so that much will be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we're gonna go ahead and, regardless of this, I'm gonna go ahead and have them continue on, because they're working out the final stuff right now, getting the, what they call the as-built.
Okay, we're talking the bridge again, not this opioid.
No, we're not talking about it yet, I'm trying to get there.
We're talking about bridge.
Yeah, but we can't talk too much.
Yeah.
We're not talking about what was taken, so.
No, we're just describing the situation that we have to rectify.
Like I said, it'll be dealt with in 2 weeks, it has to be,
Yes.
so. I'll take care of that. So now we'll go on to the opioid, this is assignment of Callaway City funds from opioid litigation settlements to the Bay County Fund. Would you like to explain this, city manager?
Sure. Spain and Florida, various municipalities, including the city of Callaway, participated in the national opioid litigation resulting in settlements that will provide funds through both a city fund and a county fund, as outlined in the Florida Memorandum of Understanding, or otherwise known as the Florida Plan. The city of Callaway is entitled to receive opioid settlement funds directly through the city fund. However, direct receipt would require the city to implement a separate opioid abatement program and fulfill associated reporting requirements. To streamline the efforts and maximize the impact of the opioid abatement program, staff proposes to assign its share of city funds proceeds to Bay County. This collaborative approach is intended to reduce administrative burden and enhance coordination regional response efforts. Basically, they want to give us money, but we have major restrictions on it. Restrictions that we can't do. We would have to set up a whole separate department for opioid education and utilize all this. So we have opted to go ahead and take our portion and assign it to the sheriff's office. And they'll put it in with their money and they will be the ones that will be administering programs and everything else across the whole entire county.
Good idea.
Okay, do we have any idea how much we received in plan?
Mr. Schultz, do you have any idea on funding? How much it was?
There's a spreadsheet that was provided, it's like $22,000 a year, it's supposed to start in 2022 was the Callaway portion. However, we have only received one payment on that, we have not cashed the check, it was sent back. There was a problem with those checks to start with, they weren't any good. There was something wrong with the VAT, so they have stopped payment on all those checks. The city has not received any funds prior. Trying to get information from them has been a nightmare. Even finally, they sent me this document to have it drawn up, and I forwarded it to Kevin so we could get it done and taken care of. We thought it was done multiple times already, and it has not been.
I just wondered how much, since we'd have to set up this whole department to handle.
Not enough.
No, that's not enough money to make that.
No.
So this way, I would imagine other municipalities are doing the same thing, some of them at least, so.
I mean, you know, if we had our own police force, then, we probably did utilize it better, but.
We do.
We do, and that's who we're giving it to.
Of course, that's right. You do a fine job with it. Is there any discussion from the board? Did anyone in the audience want to comment on this assignment of our funds to the county, to the sheriff's office?
We do have an empty office.
You have to hire a whole FTE to do all their stupid reporting.
You ought to see the reporting, it's ridiculous. And if Mr. Schultz says it's difficult, I'm not doing it.
You've got that paperwork down pat.
I ain't
approve agreement, assignment of Callaway City funds from opioid litigation settlements to Bay County funds.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will move on to our last item, bid award for the Callaway Cemetery fence project. City manager, or Ashley, which one of you wants to do it?
So we issued the invitation to bid on Friday, April 11th, with the closing date of Friday, April 25th. 4 bids were received. We did ask them to give us a price for the wood shadow box as well as the white vinyl. And the lowest that came in was Ocala Fence with the little over 38,000 for the wood shadow box and just under 40 for the white vinyl. I did not put an amount or anything in the draft contract, so you could let us know which one you decided to do.
Tim ran, recommendations, we checked them out, and everything came back positive. for
Yes,
their
their
work
references
and stuff.
spoke
Their
really
references
highly
spoke
of
highly,
it.
yeah. And so, we discussed doing the wood or doing the vinyl, such an insignificant difference. You know, we're gonna replace the white vinyl.
Yes.
Vinyl for cheaper than the wood.
Well,
For
it's
some
about
people,
it,
it's not.
yeah.
That I'm talking about
Compared
for
to-
some contractors.
Yeah, compared to some, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you just a little over 1,000 more, that's great.
And so, we're ready to move forward, get that cemetery done.
Is there any discussion up here? Would anybody in the audience like to comment on the fence for the cemetery? Okay. Well, it's back to us, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve bid award LS 2025-08 Callaway Cemetery Fence Project, awarding it to Ocala Fence, and also for the white vinyl.
So,
Oh, we've got a motion and a second. So if there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And that brings us to the end of our agenda.
Did that white vinyl fence have a spec?
Yes. Yes.
$20,000 swing, got change over.
Do it now?
$20,000 less than the next closest bid.
And they're coming out of Ocala, so I can imagine they're gonna bring a crew in and they're not gonna quit.
But we will go to commission and staff comments. I'm gonna be very brief tonight. I just wanted to mention, you know, the legislative session was set to end on May 2nd, but because they still have issues to resolve, like the budget, it's been extended till June the 6th. But they did, one thing that did pass and has already been signed into law, and I believe goes into effect July 31st, is the bill that bans fluoride in the water, and it's my understanding that the county is already taking steps to remove the fluoride from the Bay County water, so that issue is resolved, taken care of, so we don't have to worry about discussing fluoride in the water anymore.
They're not gonna remove it, it's just gonna stop adding it.
Right, yeah, I mean, I don't think they can really remove what's, but I'm just saying, I think they're already taking steps to
Stop
adding it. And I do know also that a committee, you know, the issue on property taxes was not really settled, and I know there's an issue out there about what to do with sales tax. So there has been a committee formed to discuss property tax issues. I don't know what will come of that. I am on a call 2 days from now, the 15th, with Florida League of Cities, that they're gonna do a legislative update, you know, kind of talk about what has been done. So at the next meeting, I'll be able to give y'all a better handle on some of the things that were done that will impact the city. So I'm gonna be brief, that's all I'm gonna say tonight. So we'll go ahead to you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Davis, any comments?
I was going to refer a reminder to the city manager's comments. To follow up
continuous contract on paving. Bring it to commission. There's some projects that I've given the city manager that's been held up for quite a long time. And they're not a lot of money, it's just that if we had something like that, so the commission can have a discussion on that. City manager, can you update us on Parker, also what's going on with the building of the sewage? And, I think that's it. No, the freight for the city manager to talk.
That was two.
Then he said that, you had said 3.
Yeah, I mixed it.
Okay.
Okay. You want him to address that, you want to address it, well, the first one.
I'll take it over here.
Oh, I know. I do need to address it. In future, if you could, city manager, when we have an agenda item that's time sensitive, please let us know ahead of time.
Yes, that was 100% oversight.
Okay. There's just a lot of questions that I had and couldn't be answered this evening.
Until he got up and spoke, I didn't think another thing about it.
It would have been nice to know, and maybe we could probably.
And it's not for lack of David notifying me, I was in the loop, it was strictly oversight on mine.
Okay, we just want him to address that one.
And I would say
That's his
there's
comment.
something about, we talked with Kevin about this, doing a continuing contract for paving.
We used to do that.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why we don't? Can we get you?
I've done it before.
Huh?
I've done it before, we have it all week.
Okay.
I'll send Kevin the specs of those.
I just think that we
Yeah,
should
please
look
do.
at that.
We could get a price.
Enterprise paving.
Right.
Because I think Roberts years ago, Roberts would have the contract, and then when something, we had a price for them, and when something came up, they're the ones that did the paving.
There's a particular street right now that's been 4 or 5 months now, and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and we were, and I went to the attorney, because we had a way, and he said, no, that's too much now, he doesn't want us to do it, so we're gonna put it out for bid.
And, so if we had some sort of continuous contract, and
I
we
agree.
could just, boom, get it done, you know?
We talked about this with Kevin, I can't speak for Kevin, so I won't say anything, but I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
We need something bad,
Definitely.
even if it's a minimum,
Right.
to have them come and do it,
Yeah, there's,
that's fine.
well, you have your dollar amount set already.
I do for the projects that are needed, I have the dollar amount, so.
I mean, and really, we're not talking a lot of money here. It's just that it would solve some problems, and it's getting worse, so that means more work.
Correct.
In my mind, just for discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Ayers?
Okay, I attended the St. Andrews, St. Joe Bay Estuary Committee meeting, and we discussed interlocal agreements, operating budget overview. They're gonna establish an auxiliary account for reasons that are just intricate, because they're working at Florida State, and Florida State has requirements they have to meet. They're gonna establish a 501(c). They do tie talks once a month. This one's already over, so I can't, let you know ahead of time. I attended the Bay County Commission meeting last week. Nothing really to report, other than things that have already been completed, like Ironman competition and so forth. This weekend, on the 17th and 18th, there's the biggest tournament in the world for lionfish, is in Destin, and this is their 10th year, so they're just getting bigger and bigger all the time. It's at the Harbor Walk Village in Destin. It starts at 10 a.m. and it's a festival on top of being lionfish. And they'll kill probably 10,000 lionfish a day. So they have the professionals out there and they go deep. They'll do 150-foot dives, maybe 180-foot depth, way past the amateur stuff. So they bring a lot of lionfish in, and that's all I have.
Okay, so, City Clerk, do you have anything for us tonight? Okay. City Attorney, well, we've not used you much tonight, would you like to say anything?
I'm just so glad to be here.
Okay.
Don't let them charge me every 10
say something?
I tried either way.
He's here, so. Well, then, city manager, I guess it's up to you. We missed you last time, we're glad to have you back.
Yeah, and I come back, and I left my sling at home, so I couldn't, I had a bad wing, and I'm hurt.
That's
But
right.
if it looks like I'm pledging allegiance all the time, it's it's right here.
I thought about that when you were saying this.
Yeah, I was already
thought,
there.
his
Well, when I
hands
stood
already
up, my
there.
hand was actually right here during the prayer, so I was pledging. We talked about the bridge, which we know has an overage. The drainage project, we're filing out those, waiting on the final payout for that. That project is actually coming in under budget. We've discussed Boat Race Road and how we're gonna come back one more time and request another change order for that. We're just extending the state money. We're not changing anything that's causing us anything. We've covered the cemetery fence. We're gonna be happy to get that.
We're
done.
gonna boat race run.
Yeah, I got that coming up next. So, we talked about the cemetery fence and that's done. The roundabout, as y'all know, we ran into a utility issue. It stayed at the top level way too long. Finally, we got it down to our local guy. I'm gonna say his name is Jeremy Kuhn. I brag on this guy all the time. The minute we got it into his hand, we had engineering plans. They have moved the poles. I have been in contact. Of course, they then contact the communication companies. We have to get the communication companies off of those old poles so that they can be removed. WOW's gotta go first. They contacted WOW, I also contacted WOW, and their engineers are working to get that thing done, to get it over to them now that they have the poles in position and everything. And I've already sent the plans to AT&T, who's gotta do a little bit of work out there too, we believe. So, that was moving right along pretty quick. Matt flying around. The community center, you know, that one's done, we're happy that project is over. I want to let anybody know that if you hadn't been out there to see it, that building is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
We couldn't have asked for a better project out of that, which came in under budget. The median project is underway, as y'all see, they're laying sod right now, they're moving on up, they're on schedule. Does not look like there's gonna be any issues with that. The FlexNet is actually still in, the contract is in Kevin's purview right now. I tried to actually call Amy today, but she was tied up most of the day. I think she's the one that actually has it. So if you could get a message to Amy to tell her I need to speak to her about where we are with that contract. She was trying to make sure that all the loose ends were tied up in the right way. Then we'll bring that contract back to y'all with SBA. That's for us to be able to use their tower back here. I actually met with FlexNet today. I met with Core and Main. We went out where the monopole is gonna go about Sandy Creek, that's so we can get a repeater. And then this thing is hopefully going to, you know, we'll get 99.9% coverage. And we're looking forward to FlexNet. They've already started training. Our staff has already been involved in training with them. And we'll see how that continues to go. It looks like that project's gonna be very successful.
City manager.
Yes, sir.
Say 99.9, what's gonna be left out?
They're not gonna say 100%. A future development, how about that?
Just wondering.
Yeah.
So they're
They're saying,
99.9.
they're basically saying, we've got complete coverage. They're gonna always give you that little bit of.
I just needed that.
Yeah.
You didn't say 100%.
Commissioner Pelletier, something we hadn't talked about, but I do wanna make an announcement. You know, we were looking at the work order software and everything and getting away from everything. We internally started exploring our, Springbrook software. We have successfully implemented at no cost, using the exact system. We are now completely on the work order system, using that. So I figured you'd be happy about that. And that came in under budget.
It's been here for you.
The spillway is at 90%. They're finishing up, what they're finishing up right now is the structure. One thing that's not included in this is the bridge that will go over it. This is to build the spillway itself. We are building head walls on both sides that will have posts that come up, so we'll be able to purchase a prefabricated walking bridge that they'll just bring down on a crane, pick it up, set it right down, and then we're good to go on that. So, I told y'all that the grant that we applied for that, we actually got 3 grant denials. The lift stations got denied, and I'm not accustomed to not getting grants. This is very unusual. We're waiting to hear from the state why. I'm just gonna say one word, Doge, and I'll leave it at that. It's getting silly now. They're trying to stop all of our money across the board. We honestly do not know why this thing was denied. This was basically a DEP, Department of Environmental Protection grant, because this whole entire lake on the far west side is all wetlands. And if we lose this spillway, it's going to affect all those wetlands up there in a negative way. It's going to impact everything negatively. So we're going to figure out why. We're going to keep looking, but as everyone knows, the lake looks a little bit full today because of all the rain we've had, but it will go all the way back down and it will keep draining, and we cannot stop it at this point. Efforts to keep the lake clean of vegetation is going to be null because we don't have enough water to get a boat in there. It can't get in through the spring. Fortunately, this is not floating vegetation. This is just invasive that's going to grow up. If we could get the lake level back up, then we wouldn't have this issue of the growth coming through. So we're going to continue to look at that on the spillway. Beacon Point, tied up at the state is a good way to put it.
We're still waiting on full approval.
We're still waiting on full
Holly's
approval.
working on their bonds.
Go ahead.
Holly Development is working on their bonds. We should have those by the end of this week, but we are still waiting on state approval.
Yeah, the state's just never seen it take this long to get an approval for something when they approved the original contract. They approved the blank contract, and now they want to see a signed, one-sided contract. It makes no sense to me. They approved the original contract, delayed us on all that, and now we're like, hey, and they're like, well, we need to look at it, and they're just delaying stuff out. I don't know what's going on with the state right now. It looks like everything's just come to almost a stop. That's the same issue on the lift stations.
Well, we do have the pre-con for that. We should get the Commerce should get the good to go after the pre-con tomorrow for the lift station.
Okay.
Same with when we did, Hugh Thomas's pre-con
Yeah,
schedule.
but we approved that over a month ago.
Yes.
And it's the same contract, it's the same thing, why are they holding us up? It's a little baffling on what they're doing right now. And when their third one that we're working on? Oh, Hugh Thomas.
It's
Yeah, Hugh
supposed to,
Thomas.
yeah.
We've got the Hugh Thomas over here that's ready to go, and we're waiting on the same thing, we're waiting on the state. So, once they go through, like I said, we've got approval to do the pre-con on one. Did we get approval for the pre-con on Hugh
Yes, we're
Thomas?
scheduling Hugh Thomas for early next
Yeah,
week.
that all came up
Today.
today,
Today.
yeah. So, we're trying to get these three projects started and going, as soon as we can get the state cooperation. So we're kind of sitting in a little spot with those. Commissioner Pelletier talked about, the sewer issue with Parker. We are drawing up a contract with Parker, just like we did with Springfield. It has to do with when the AWT system was built, some of Parker's sewer flowed into Callaway and we processed it. Some of Callaway's sewer flowed into Parker and they processed it. Everyone knew this on the front end. It's all right there in black and white that everyone just accepted it. Springfield was the first one that caught it. And so we did an agreement with them and we pay them actuals. We're actually collecting the sewer, but they're paying to process it. So we take that money that we collect for them actuals every year and we send it to Springfield. We're going to do the same thing with Parker. Parker's got 7 units. We've got
127.
127 units that flow into Parker that we get paid sewer for, but Parker's paying to process it. So, we met with them and we just came up with the same agreement that we did with Springfield. It's only fair. At the end of the year, we'll take all the actuals of exactly what was collected for the sewer and we'll write Parker a check for that. We collected it. They deserve their money. They're gonna do the same thing with us. And so, and we'll have that agreement to y'all, hopefully by the next meeting.
How far back are we going?
We're gonna go back
5 years?
that's statute of limitations. And everyone has agreement.
That's a lot of money. What's the total amount?
Total amount is $86,000.
For the 5 years.
Now,
We took the money in.
Yes,
That's not an issue.
it, so.
Yeah, the money, we collected the money.
and this all came about, just so everybody knows, it came about because there's a hotel gonna be built in Parker.
Right.
They gotta connect our sewer.
And back
That's a lot of money. So they were like, hey, just give us the impact, and we said no, to keep everything completely clean and clear. If they impact our system, and they're a new development, and this will be part of the agreement, if somebody over here goes over there and they impact their system and they do a connection, they will get the impact fees for that connection. They're going to be affecting our connection, so they're gonna pay us the impact fees. Those impact fees are gonna be over, I think, around $120,000. Somewhere around $120,000 is what that contractor is gonna pay us for the impact fees on the sewer.
Why so little on that one?
It's just sewer.
Just sewer, okay.
That's just,
Yeah, that's mine.
yeah, that's just sewer.
That's a better deal.
And then they'll pay us every year, they'll pay us at the end of the year
So
for
with-
all that
Yeah.
sewage.
Yeah. So when it all comes online, they're gonna be collecting the bills for the sewer from the hotel, even though we're gonna be processing it. That will go into the spreadsheet and they will write us a check and we will write them a check. So we keep everything clean. It's so transparent. I think our children that learn new math can figure it out. And so that's where we're at with the Parker issue. Me and the mayor and Kevin met with their attorney and their staff and their mayor, and we all sit down, everybody's happy, that everybody feels like it's completely fair. Everybody acknowledges that this was known about.
Oh, yeah, I remember AWG.
Yeah, so that's where we are on that. Did I miss anything?
Solid waste.
Solid waste is in staff review right now. I met with David Carrington today. I meant to tell you about that. I met with David Carrington today. He's going over and reviewing everything, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I will email it to y'all, so y'all can go ahead and be looking over it. And then we'll put it on the next agenda, or as a discussion topic, where y'all can say, go out for bid or change it. If you say go out for bid, it's already gonna be in bid format. It's already 100 and something pages, I think. It's ridiculous, but that's just on the contract language, and it has nothing to do with the.
Send it to us soon.
Yes.
Yes, 100 some odd pages.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying the bid packet is, the bid packets are stupid, because we're not gonna send that to you, we're just gonna send you the scope.
Okay.
Okay.
The scope and how it will be done and everything.
So if you want us to review 100 some pages.
No, I
wait till Friday.
We won't send all that, will we?
I need 4 days on that.
And I also contacted, a couple of haulers and asked them if they'd be willing just to look at it, just to see how they felt about it, and give some input on it.
Just two quick things I forgot, Mayor. City Manager, could we talk about 4th of July in a parade next meeting?
Yes. Actually, please put that on the agenda.
July's coming pretty fast. Don't wanna talk about it today, just next meeting.
Thank you for letting us prepare.
They used to talk about it, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for that. Framework. I think that's the framework.
And I think too, at that meeting, you know, the Callaway 75th year anniversary, 73 years.
No, what's happening with Church Street?
Okay.
It's time to prepare. 75-year anniversary for Callaway is a big thing. We ought to have something big.
That's in 2027.
Instead of just passing pins out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot those two items.
Anything else anybody wanted to cover that you did? Good. Well, so we can go on to announcements then. It's not on here, but this Sunday, May 18th, we do have a Callaway Historical Society meeting. It's at 2 o'clock. It's gonna be at the First Baptist Church. And if you're a member and you're interested, we're gonna be talking about going forward, meeting day, meeting time, meeting place. So if you're interested at all in having a voice in that, come to the meeting.
Why can't we go to the community center?
Because there's an issue with the community center because of the cost, and the weekend is a high time for it to be rented. It would cost the city money, so we're looking at maybe moving to a different time in the community center.
It fits right in.
That's one of the things that we're gonna talk about. So please be there Sunday. And then on May 20th, I've been told that there will not be a planning board meeting. So just ignore that. And then our next commission meeting will be May 27th. And you already know 2 of the items we'll be talking about. So if you're interested in those, please be sure to come back on the 27th. Is there anything else anybody can think of that's not listed here? Okay, well then we will go on to public participation. So, yes ma'am, Ms. Cusper.
Mayor Henderson, these comments are not directed at you personally. As chairman of the Republican Liberty Caucus, one of my duties is to help hold elected officials accountable for their actions. And one of the things I've seen happening in Callaway Commission meetings, in public meetings, is one commissioner, I heard him tell someone to shut up and sit down. The same commissioner in another meeting also made a comment about a commissioner and his wife not being very Christian. And right before another meeting, this same commissioner also told a speaker to be careful what he said because the commissioner's wife was listening. And this is not behavior that I expect to see from elected officials. And so why am I bringing this up? The reason is there has been a petition prepared to be filed with the city clerk to recall Commissioner Kenneth Ayers from office. And I would ask tonight that Commissioner Ayers consider resigning from office effective immediately so that the city and the mayor and the commissioners and all the people will not have to go through the embarrassment of a recall in addition to Kenneth Ayers having to go through that himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Custer. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Shaner, I saw your hand first, so you should be next.
Con Shaner, 5711 Cabin Circle. I know this Candlewood Suits thing has been tabled. You just can't talk about it, but tonight.
I think you can talk, we just can't really comment to you, so you go right ahead.
Okay, lots of cities donate land or tax breaks to businesses that they're trying to bring in. I mean, it's a real cutthroat thing. I mean, they'll try everything to get a business in. And, you know, I mean, on mixed feelings on it, you know, but, you didn't donate any land that I know of, no tax breaks that I know of, and, you know, would you be better off if that lot was sitting there vacant, weeds growing up in it, and maybe having to go out there and mow it, or are you better off with, Candlewood Suits there? They're gonna be a good source of revenue, and, you know, the city didn't donate any tax breaks. Many of them do rather generous tax breaks to get businesses. And you're always talking about wanting businesses, trying to attract businesses. And you know, it just seems to me like you're trying to bleed every nickel out of them you can, talking about interest on this money. I mean, good grief. I mean, the sooner they get their doors open, the sooner people's gonna be working, the sooner they're gonna be bringing in revenue. Is there a bed tax here, or do you get something? No bed tax. Oh, but anyway, you'd be better off, you know, you'll have some jobs there. And, you know, there'd be sales tax and stuff, so the city's gonna be better off, or I think you'll be better off if Candlewood Suits there producing revenue for the city. It may not be like the bed tax thing out on the beach. You might think that's a real racket, but anyway, what? But anyway, let's see here. My question is, do you think you'd be better off with Candlewood Suits there, or would you be better off with that vacant lot and weed growth and rats and heart and what going on? And I was impressed with the speed of construction, you know, unlike the one down the road, you know. Candlewood is gonna be producing revenue for the city of Callaway long before this one down the road is gonna produce a nickel. So, you know, I don't think we hurt it all to give them a little bit of break on this interest thing. I mean, you know, the 3 month or the 3 payments or whatever, I mean, they spent lots of money there. And, you know, I just think you ought to work with them, give them some slack, but think about it.
Thank you, Mr. Shane, for that input. Ms.
Okay.
Pelletier?
Can I make a comment?
Well, we're not supposed to talk about because it was tabled, but remember we said he could talk, but we don't really need to.
No, this would involve Candlewood, would be bringing up points that,
Well, but I mean, we're still talking about that item that was tabled, so I kind of get to an area, I don't know, I don't want to, I'd rather err on the side of caution. We'll talk about it in 2 weeks.
that'd be fine.
So hold your comment.
Ann Pelletier, 7724 Shadow Bay Drive. And about sometime in the last 12 months, you made the comment that you had received feedback from citizens to keep your comments to Callaway-related events. And you've stuck to that, and the citizens appreciate that. And the citizens also appreciate Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Griggs involved doing the same thing. So thank you guys for that. And since the last meeting, Mr. Ayers has made a confronting statement to WJHG, expressing no remorse for his animosity to Bob. And in light of that, animosity towards a commissioner and the well-documented contempt for the citizens of Callaway, I'm calling for Mr. Ayers to resign also.
Would somebody else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Martin Bossler, 6303 Wallace Road. I would like you to resign.
He's anonymous no more. Would somebody else like to speak? Would you speak, sir?
Andrew Johnson, 7304 Rogers Drive. I understand what the commissioners were concerned about with the investment, the 5% not being received for the total amount of funds for Candlewood Suites, but I'm not a day trader, but I know that the rule of thumb is the best time to invest in the stock market is yesterday, and the second best is today. And so it's going to take them a while. We're saying that they have to do the 100% upfront right now for the required fees, and that we're collecting that 5% on. It's going to take them some time, weeks, maybe a month or two, that the city's not collecting anything at all, versus having a third upfront, that's starting the revenue process of it. That's actually hitting 5%. Yes, you're losing out on the 2/3, but better to have that upfront right now, collecting revenue. And then, I am a new member of the community. It's my understanding that there are a lot of veterans here that have all taken oath as well as elected representatives of defending the Constitution, which includes the First Amendment and the freedom of speech. And so I find it not only disgraceful for any citizen to prohibit an individual to speak, and I find it all the more appalling for any elected official to do so against a citizen. So I call upon all citizens of Callaway to discipline those who would prohibit this right that's granted to all American citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And welcome to Callaway. I hope you come back to our meetings.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Langston?
Teresa Langston, 6031 Lance Street. I have a couple statements, questions, whatever. As far as like charging them interest, is it like, this would probably be from the city attorney? Is it something that we legally could do since we're losing out on the interest? Are you able to in whatever?
We'll let you have your 3 minutes and I'll answer.
And also, you can get an update about Cherry Street.
Oh, you sure can. I'll do that.
No, and then also, I just want to say that I think that Commissioner Ayers' behavior has been extremely embarrassing for Callaway in the treatment of the citizens, and I too think he should resign.
Okay, did you want to address that? Whether we could prevent the 5%?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the recommendation or the suggested action in the agenda item was to contract with the developer to figure out a way to make this work. If it was the direction of the commission to include a required interest payment essentially as part of their payment of their impact fees, we could make that contractually work.
So legally, we could do it.
Yes.
I just didn't know if it was legal.
Yeah,
Yes.
legally, we could do it. And you want to go ahead and do Cherry Street?
Yes. Teresa, thank you for bringing that up.
Can I interrupt real quick? Before he addresses that, can I address the freedom of speech thing real quick while it's fresh in everybody's mind?
Yeah, if you'll, yeah, go ahead.
I totally agree with the freedom of speech thing. When I'm up here making comments, I make a lot of comments as a devil's advocate. And so I did make that comment, where I thought that we need to keep our comments constructive and, non-attacking. And we've had a lot of that. We get a lot of bullying. We're getting that tonight, with the Pelletiers, trying to gather other citizens to, their side, which is good. You should be able to do that. But I've worked hard at the job. I'll continue to work hard and I'm not quitting. But the attorney here was one of our trainers, and one of the things that was mentioned at our training, that public comments is an optional portion. And we discussed that, and I brought that up as if we can't be civil in our comments, that, that's one of the things we could do is eliminate the public comments. But I'm not trying to tell you you can't speak out. You can speak out anywhere at any time, and you can call the newspaper or the news channels, and you can comment with them. So I'm not trying to limit public participation or anything. I just want to keep things civil. And I brought this up to the mayor last time as a point of discussion. I'm also a citizen of Callaway, and we should have the right to bring up things to discuss, and without repercussions or being bullied by other people. So that's all I have to say.
Mayor, Commissioner, I'd like to correct you. My wife and I have not solicited or called or been to any meeting pertaining to you. So where you got that information, I don't know. But my wife and I have not been involved. I'd like to correct that record.
Did anybody else want to speak in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
I'd love to see you, but I gotta go to reading. I've been to one meeting, I gotta tell you, this one's a lot better than the last meeting I went to. That was pretty contentious, you guys were talking all over the place. 57 years ago, I attended my first commission meeting. This meeting has room for improvement since the meeting at January was here. You guys have been great tonight, thank you for the civility, I appreciate it. The government's role in my life is to maintain standards, behaviors, and correct wrongdoings, and also guide accepting conduct. In my opinion, the city is the one that's supposed to set the example by treating people with respect, by being fair, and by being honest. I found if you treat others the way they treat you, they get upset. I'm not here just to complain. I used to be an engineer, so I have solutions. First thing I'm going to suggest that you all watch your commission meetings, because I can tell you, this is my second meeting I've been to. I've watched quite a few, and I've turned them all off, because you guys are talking all over each other. I can't tell who's talking. Everybody's lips are moving, and it's not useful information to me. The other thing I want to suggest is that you read your Robert's rules, because you wouldn't be interrupting each other if you read them.
The other thing I'm gonna suggest is that you read your Callaway job requirements that are online. I went through and read them again tonight. This is what you require of your employees, effective communication with others, compose effective and accurate correspondence, and cooperate with others. Communicate effectively with others, both written and oral, effectively present information in small groups. I wonder, do you all meet your own requirements that you require of your employees? So, to set an example of how you treat others with fairness, respect, and truth, I suggest you stop the juvenile antics of turning your chair around when you disagree with speakers. We all are entitled to our opinions. You stop telling people to sit down and shut up, because nowhere in the world is that acceptable. You stop reading the laundry list of meetings you attended and the personal items you donated. This is not useful, and it wastes our time. If it has value to the city or to the citizens, then tell us about it. Otherwise, I don't want a list of your meetings. Stop with the derogatory comments about others. I've heard many of you comment about contractors didn't know what they were doing, citizens are uneducated, our contracts have errors, and there's no reason for anybody to be derogatory to anyone else. Stop riding around with jobs with the city manager. This isn't your first term. The city manager, I understand, is very busy. Set boundaries. No one should be riding around with the city manager for jobs. And why can't you not remember the derogatory comments you've made to others, but you remember all the derogatory comments are to you? That again is self-serving. That does not serve the public.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Renee Major, 726 Buddy Drive. I just wanted to thank you, Commissioner Pelletier, about the change orders. I think it's one of the best things that was said tonight. And if the heat's too hot, stay out of the kitchen.
Mr. Carnahan?
Just want to hear about Cherry Street.
Okay.
Mr. Cook got interrupted.
My hand's up, I'm on top.
Go ahead, I give you my 3 minutes.
That's right. I'm on top for 30. Okay, so we've actually had a lot of positive movement all the way up until today. TICO has went out and done their surveys, and they've still got crews on site that is continuing to do their final surveys to finish up everything, and we have requested a schedule. That came through today, that they were trying to work a schedule out to get to us so that they can get out there and start moving their stuff. Hopefully I'll get that schedule. You can vet the minute I get that schedule, I'm gonna send it out. Just remember, it's not my schedule. I requested it, they sent it to me. It's not my schedule. My schedule would have already been completed by now. So that's really kind of where we're at right now. We need TICO to get in and get their lines moved. That's really where we're at. We can't even move forward with anything else until that. AT&T, who has some service issues that are crossing, that they're gonna have to deal with until they get that SUE work on where TICO's gonna put their stuff. Most of AT&T stuff's actually gonna go overhead. I got a feeling, that's not something you really normally see. We're gonna move from underground to overhead. But AT&T's willing to go up, and I think eventually then they'll go back underground once everything's done, but that'll be a future project. Cause I was trying to get all the communication moved on the poles that have been cut so we can get them removed. I was told we can't do that, so, we are verifying that any poles that may be in a project area. I'm talking about, if you go down Cherry Street, FPL put in brand new poles, without notifying us, and they also had the plans to this. So that was not anything we did, it's just FPL didn't know to move around. But right now, what I'm told is the poles that are cut, that the communication lines are on, they're not in the way of the project at all. So as they get those moved, we'll get those taken down, or somebody will take them down. Somebody will go out there and back and push that pole over. I don't know who it is, but it might be me. So.
I verified, TICO was there, I saw them.
out there. They've got 56 issues, but they're down to, I think, 7 or 8 that they're trying to get the final on. And that's what they went out, was very fun where that was, so. I'm hopeful. I'm running out of hope, but, you know,
Another parade this year.
Probably. T-Pro and AT&T, the only ones that we know of that we're gonna have to figure anything.
the city.
I think AT&T's already done the part where we wanna start, they're done with that.
They have, they're probably gonna go back and change that, because they got it laying on the ground. They're probably gonna come back and jerk it up and set it up on the poles. Or they may wait till the project's done and then lay it back in the ground. It's hard to say. But I did talk to AT&T, I talked to their engineer. I think it was Monday, had a long talk with him. They have all their plans ready on the east side. They haven't laid out anything on the west side yet, but they said it will follow the same standards as what they're doing on that side. This is just a massive project.
Yeah, I know.
We're going over top of, that road's been expanded 3 different times. And so everybody's trying to get it done.
Have you, we're not at the point where, we're gonna see a change order on Cherry Street.
Oh, yeah.
Before the project starts.
Yeah.
Before the work is done.
You're going to see change order, they can't have something
I
this
know
big.
there's one coming, it's just, I wanna make sure that we see it before we start.
If you'll remember, we talked about the difference in the cost of materials between when the project was actually bid and when it goes, and they're gonna come back with actual requotes, and they will then adjust it, and they'll come back and ask for an increase. I just will.
Maybe a decrease by the time they get.
Could be.
That's right, because
Might be.
costs are coming down on something.
We get a change
Well,
order.
that
Always hope.
I love that hope. That's some great hope. I will say that, you know, based on what we know, the project's about $13 million, expected to go up. But if everybody will remember, the second bid that we got was $20-something million to do this project.
We rebid that 3 times.
Yeah, and if we go out for bid again, we won't do the project. We won't have the money to do it, so we're gonna continue to play nice with the contractor who is fully on board, still supportive. He wants to do the project. Lord help him, I love him.
Now, the grants on the sidewalks, so
They're pushing. They're pushing it.
okay,
They're helping me,
all right.
so, yeah, they are
But
helping.
there's a time frame on those, isn't
There's a
there?
time frame, and we do have the extensions right now are all in place, and everything's looking fine. We need to get construction started, because once you start construction, you don't lose a grant. You know, they're gonna say, you're too involved, they won't take your money away, so our goal is to hurry up and get some shovels in the ground so that they can't take that money away. But they're helping me, they're also requesting time frames. And we're using that as leverage, that we get to know something quick. So, there's certain people at the state that are really good, there's certain people at the state that just can't get them to do anything. Maria is a good person.
Is that it?
That's it.
Good. Anybody else want to speak?
I just have a question for Mr. Cook.
Go ahead.
On the Cherry Street, who's in charge of franchises with your utilities? Who's in charge of franchises with your utilities? You have, are you
This
franchises?
commission,
Okay, so isn't there something in your franchise that, where you can, they have a timely time to move their poles? They're not supposed to be out in the road and not
Yes.
notify you? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just not going the legal way with any of your?
no, we're going the legal way.
I didn't mean it
But,
that
I mean,
way. I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
We're not challenging it legally when they're not
Well-
looking and not letting you know.
We can push as far as we want, they're the only gas provider. So if I come up and I go, fine, we're pulling your franchise fee, then your citizens have no gas. Because there's not another supplier. or
I
provider.
understand that.
So we're kind of in a really weird situation where, yeah, Tico was caught off guard. Tico is now having to go and do a bunch of extra stuff. Do I think they have delayed us? Yes. I'll go on the record of saying that. So the goal is to keep them motivated. But there's not a lot of legal recourse that we have against them other than to say, you're taking too long.
I understand. I was a retired engineer for utilities, so, natural gas, so I know that. But I also know that the franchise should give you teeth to get them to move. I'm thinking more like boat race, but that's what I wanted to know, because I've had plenty of challenges myself. So,
Mayor, can I make a comment on that? If I remember right, way back, many moons ago, we had our attorney send a demand letter to TICO. And we asked the audience out there if we demanded and they would produce, if they would do, and we did away with their, TICO. Everybody in the audience but one said yes. So we've been there already.
Yeah.
So we've already done that. We've already demanded. It's just that, how far do you wanna go? You wanna disconnect gas? I just wanted to comment on that. We've already.
Well, the poll that we took that night from people in the audience,
Yeah, right.
all except for one said, do away with the gas.
But we don't know how many of those people
Right.
actually have gas. Some of these people that are all electric, and they're like, sure, go ahead and pull it. Is there anybody else before we adjourn? Last call. Okay, I don't see anybody, so,
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
okay. Thank you all for coming with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.